Thank you, Alex. So good evening to you and your viewers. The poll we ran between the 1st of March and the 10th of March for the Telegraph asked over 5,000 people how they intend to vote in the local elections coming up this year.
Keir Starmer just pulled a move so brazen it's left even seasoned political analysts speechless. With a stroke of a pen, he's postponed 13 local elections that polls showed Labour was likely to lose to Reform UK. Why would a party leader who claims to champion democracy suddenly fear the ballot box? The answer lies in the stunning rise of Reform UK and plummeting trust in Labour.
If the elections that have been delayed were set to take place this year and weren't delayed, we would have actually seen Reform topping the poll. And the headline numbers are that Reform are set to win the second most seats behind the Conservatives.
A story mainstream media won't fully tell you. Let's break down what's really happening behind this shocking announcement. Before we move on, I'd like to ask you a small favour. If you appreciate this content, please take a second to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Over 98% of you watch the videos without subscribing. It costs you nothing, but it makes a huge difference to us. So did you click the subscribe button? Great, thank you so much. Now back to the video. Let's cut through the spin and examine what's really happening with Starmer's election postponements. This isn't just a minor rescheduling, it's a calculated political manoeuvre that speaks volumes about Labour's current position. When we look closely at the 13 areas where elections have suddenly been delayed, a pattern emerges that the mainstream media has conveniently overlooked. These aren't random constituencies scattered across the UK. They represent traditional Labour heartlands, working class communities that have loyally supported the party for generations. But something has shifted dramatically.
When it comes to Reform's campaign in Doncaster, they're off to the races. They are projected to win Doncaster directly from Labour, winning the most council seats out of all the major parties.
Wow.
So let's look at where Reform are doing well. So they would have done very well in Thurrock, but of course that's had a delay. And we don't predict Labour will win any councils. But they didn't have many. They only had one council to begin with, and that was Doncaster.
Interesting.
Internal polling data, carefully guarded by Labour strategists, shows Reform UK gaining unprecedented momentum in these exact areas. This isn't just about Reform challenging Labour. In several of these constituencies, they're actually pulling ahead. The timing couldn't be more suspicious. Just weeks before voters were set to head to the polls, Starmer's team began quietly laying the groundwork for these postponements. Behind closed doors, panic was spreading through Labour headquarters as constituency reports filtered in. Meanwhile, Starmer maintained a public facade of electoral confidence, assuring supporters that Labour's position remained strong in these regions. The legal justifications offered for these delays wouldn't withstand serious scrutiny in any other context. Administrative complications and procedural technicalities have been cited, the kind of bureaucratic excuses that would never be accepted if they came from a Conservative government. The real reason is painfully obvious. Starmer can't afford to lose these symbolic battlegrounds to Reform UK, especially not when his leadership narrative is built on reclaiming Labour's traditional support base. What's particularly striking is the contrast between Starmer's actions now and his lofty rhetoric during his leadership campaign. This is the same man who positioned himself as a champion of democratic processes and transparency. He criticised his predecessors for party management that sidelined voters' concerns. Now, faced with the prospect of actual ballot boxes revealing uncomfortable truths, those principles have evaporated. The public hasn't missed this hypocrisy. Within just 5 days of the announcement, a petition demanding that the postponed elections go ahead as scheduled gathered over 300,000 signatures. People across the political spectrum recognise this for what it is, a manipulation of democratic norms for partisan advantage. Protests have erupted in towns and cities, including Manchester, Bristol and Liverpool. with citizens demanding their right to vote be respected. These aren't just disgruntled reform supporters either. Many Labour voters feel betrayed by what they see as a cynical attempt to avoid electoral accountability. The backlash reflects something deeper than partisan politics. It speaks to a growing sense that our democratic institutions are being bent to serve political convenience rather than public will. The most revealing aspect of this entire affair is what it tells us about Labour's internal assessment of Reform UK. This isn't about avoiding a minor embarrassment or a temporary setback. The data in Starmer's possession must show something truly alarming, a fundamental shift in voter alignment that threatens not just these specific elections, but Labour's entire electoral strategy. Reform UK has clearly tapped into something powerful in these communities. They've connected with voters on issues Labour seems increasingly uncomfortable addressing: immigration concerns, high taxes, and a perceived disconnect between Westminster elites and everyday working people. What we're witnessing isn't merely a protest vote, but a significant realignment of political loyalties. Starmer is effectively admitting that Reform UK has become Labour's most dangerous challenger in areas where they once faced little serious opposition. This isn't the Conservative Party chipping away at Labour's base. It's a newer political force that represents a fundamental challenge to Labour's claim to represent working class interests. The gamble is clear. Starmer hopes that by delaying these elections, he can buy time to address Reform UK's rising popularity. Perhaps he believes the surge will fade, or that Labour can adjust its messaging to reconnect with these voters. But there's a serious risk this strategy backfires. Many voters will see these postponements as confirmation that Labour no longer trusts them to make the right decision at the ballot box. What we're witnessing isn't merely a political manoeuvre, it's an unprecedented assault on the very foundation of our democratic system. When elected officials actively avoid facing their constituents at the ballot box, we must ask ourselves, who's truly in control? The upcoming local elections represent a critical juncture for accountability in British politics. The outcome will determine whether genuine reform is possible, or if strategic manipulation will continue to undermine public trust. This moment could reshape politics for years to come. The real test will be whether voters' memories are long enough to remember this democratic betrayal when they finally get their chance to be heard at the polls.